We're equal, men and women alike. What we do for the benefit of all.
Well, I'd very much like to be equal to you.
That poor man is pouring out his heart.
Hello, you beautiful nerds. Denis Villeneuve has released his latest sci-fi extravaganza, and people are going gaga for it. I mean, audiences are losing it for this one. I get a weird sense of joy when something this strange and nerdy manages to perforate the zeitgeist like this movie has managed to. Especially from a director that isn't a big old money magnet like Nolan or James Gunn. This is a philosophical essay wrapped up in a tragic yet fun war in our stars, and I can't believe people are actually liking it. But let me not get ahead of myself. Let's talk about what we're talking about. So take a swig of the water of life and take a handful of spice, because we're about to get weird as we talk about. But first, a prelude. In the year of our Lord 2021, a little Sand Planet movie came out by the name of Dune. Because we were knee-deep in a global pandemic at the time, movie theaters were all but closed around the world. And I did a little video review of it, and this clip kind of sums up what I thought about the movie.
About an hour into this movie, I was like, wow, this is beautiful. This is compelling. This is an allegory for so many real-world issues. This is...
What? This is boring.
Now, this is an oversimplification that I use because it's funny, but the first film has the arduous task of setting up a bunch of storylines, characters, and environments. And unfortunately, because Dune Part 1 isn't a 5-hour movie, a good chunk of the story is just world building. But I have to admit, I was wrong about Dune Part 1, but only a little bit, so let me explain. Dune Part 1 needs Dune Part 2 because without it, there's really no ending to that story. Like Chani says, it's only the beginning. It doesn't really stand well on its own, and Dune Part 2's existence only makes the first part better. If we never got a sequel, Part 1 would still not be good. Comparing it to, say, the original Star Wars trilogy, A New Hope works as its own film. It has a beginning, middle, and end. Part 1 barely gets going before it's over. That being said, I can't think of any other way to tell this story short of a billion-dollar TV series. Everything that Dune sets up is executed so exceptionally in the sequel that it makes Part 1 kind of a masterpiece. So I'm changing my ranking. I loved it. But what about the sequel? Well, it picks up right where the last movie left off. Paul and his mother Jessica are ingratiated with the Fremen people and learn their culture while Paul prepares to take his revenge against the Emperor and the evil Baron Harkonnen. Part 2 improves on everything the first movie did well. The action is spectacular and the pacing is handled wonderfully. Like, the story moves fast, but Denis still takes his time with the moments that matter. It's helped out by the fact that there's a lot more action in this installment, but it's not action for the sake of action. The big sequences also serve as character beats and move the story along in an engaging way. And let's talk about the story because it is dense. The world of Dune is so vast. The main character of the movie has friggin' 5 names. So yeah, there's a lot going on with this movie. But kudos to the writers and the director because it's all still digestible and gripping. The way this film raises questions about the purpose of religion and the danger of charismatic leaders who crave power is stunning. Beyond all the fantastical sci-fi plot points about sandworms and Lady Jedi, there are deep themes that will make you argue with your Christian uncle on the way to the parking lot. There are obviously a lot of parallels between Paul Atreides and Anakin Skywalker, a young man thought to be a chosen one that will ultimately cause the ruin of the entire galaxy because of a vision he had about his girlfriend dying. But it is done so much better in this movie. The political and religious stakes are so much more prevalent in this story. Not that they didn't try to... I mean, they definitely tried to make politics important in those prequels, and everyone has stepped up their performances. Some of the characters that we didn't get to see very much in the first film, like Chani, Garni, and Stilgar, are standouts in this one, and that makes the story that much more tragic. Bring it back to Star Wars, because, you know, Star Wars stole from Dune. But whatever, Dune stole from Foundation, and Foundation stole from the Roman Empire. Anyway, Star Wars. This is very similar to Empire Strikes Back in the sense that it ends with a sense of tragedy and defeat. In this one, the good guys win, but they're not really the good guys anymore. In a very Walter White way, Paul has turned into someone you kind of don't like anymore. Paul makes some pretty big choices, and we don't even really need to see the next movie to guess what these choices could mean going forward. Now let's talk about the performances for a little bit. Javier Bardem playing Stilgar was like, I don't think anyone was having more fun than him. I I loved his performance. He was so funny, but all of his comedic moments came from a place of honesty and sincerity, which helped make the more dramatic moments land so well. With the absence of Duncan Idaho, this was the perfect comedic father figure for Paul to befriend. Austin Butler is a very striking individual. He's a pretty baby boy, but I am not a big fan of his performance in this. He's doing sort of an impression of Stellan Skarsgård, and it doesn't feel super authentic to me. Like, I legit have no idea what his real speaking voice sounds like, but there were only a few moments in this movie where it sounded like this voice was natural. Like, it sounded so weird to me. It was just a little bit distracting at times. The character is effectively creepy and unforgivably brutal, but I attribute that more to the makeup and the writing, because there wasn't anything that he did necessarily that blew me away. You know who did blow me away? Fucking this guy.
Back in this bitch, man, sir.
I thought my boy Timmy was sensational in this movie. I think Timmy is a pretty darn good actor, and I loved seeing him tackle a big role like this and make the turn of Paul's character so believable. Also, you gotta love a guy who's gonna shoot his shot with Keke Palmer on live television.
We did a bit of a, we met when we were 17, right?
Wait a minute, where we met?
At Teen Vogue.
We
You
did
remember
the
this?
Young Hollywood shoot.
Yes, exactly. Your mom was there.
Oh my gosh, my mom is always with me. Shout out to my mom.
Shout out to mom. Shout out to mom. How you doing?
How you doing?
Like, I'm right there with you, Paulie. I would have done the same thing. But as much as I loved Timmy in this, he was not my MVP. That honor goes to Zendaya as Chani. She really impressed me in this one. I've only really seen her in a few movies, and she's always good in them, but it wasn't until seeing this that I realized how different all those roles are from each other, and how different this role is from anything she's ever done. She's pretty much the co-lead of this movie. Her emotional journey is so heartbreaking and so important to the story that if a lesser actor were in this role, the whole film would fall apart. The love story feels honest, and that's in no small part to Zendaya's performance and her chemistry with Tim. Their story is a visible and audible heartache, and the last shot of the movie alone earns Zendaya the MVP. At the time of this recording, I have seen Dune Part 2 3 times in theaters. Denis Villeneuve has literally never made a bad movie, in my opinion, and it's crazy to see how the trajectory of his career has led him here. This movie never should have been made. I thought that after Blade Runner bombed, that they would never give this guy the keys to such a huge property ever again. I love that movie, but it did terrible at the box office, and Hollywood doesn't normally reward you for failure, unless you're the guys who wrote Morbius. But he has never had a huge hit, and Dune Part 1 didn't do very well. I mean, it made money, but not enough to justify a sequel under normal circumstances. This could have gone the way of Fincher's Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, where we were robbed of an opportunity to see the story play out because of a mediocre box office return, and because of other stuff, but I'll let you look into that. The fact that fucking Warner Brothers of all studios greenlit this sequel is astounding. But this is one of those rare lightning in a bottle moments where a great movie is actually recognized both commercially and critically for the phenomenal work of art that it is. I don't think that this is a perfect movie. There is some silly shit in this one. Like I always say, there are no perfect movies, except Empire. But I think that this film showcased everything that is great about cinema. The acting, the writing, the music. I didn't even talk about the music. It was so good. It was all so mind-blowing, and I'm excited to see how we'll be talking about this movie in, say, 20 years, because mark my words, this is going to start something. The way that this has been received and the way people are reacting to it, I feel like this is going to be a cornerstone in cinema similar to The Dark Knight. And much like Mr. Nolan, Denis Villeneuve has cemented himself as one of the greatest sci-fi directors of our time. My ranking, I loved it. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to hear more spoiler-riddled reviews, you can watch the Drunk Banthas podcast where we talk about Dune 2. And we also talked about the 2nd season of Halo and the FX series Shogun, so go ahead and check that out. And consider perusing through our new merch store where you can buy mugs, hats, hoodies, and a bunch of stuff with our stupid name on it. But until next time, stay safe, my little Benny Gesserits, and may the Force be with you.